Life Audio.
Welcome to Christian Natural Health with naturopathic Dr. Lauren DeVille. Christian Natural Health is the podcast on how to get and stay healthy, God's way. You'll hear topics on nutrition, exercise, sleep, avoiding toxicity, meditating on scripture, what supplements to take, stress management, defeating anxiety and worry, how to reconcile Eastern medicine approaches with Christianity, and a whole lot more. Now, here's your host, Dr. Lauren.
Welcome back to another episode of Christian Natural Health. Today, I'm very pleased to have Roma Peace with us. Roma is an executive with Pure and Clean, a family-owned business headquartered in Missouri that promotes the use of their hypochlorous acid, HOCl solutions to prevent infection, improve patient outcomes, and heal wounds faster. Welcome, Roma. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us the background for Pure and Clean. So why did you guys develop this in the first place? Where did you see the hole in the market?
Yes. Well, actually, it's really interesting because Pure and Clean started out with our founder, Trent Freeman. He learned about hypochlorous acid through his father-in-law, who is a surgeon. And anyway, he's done lots of really cool stuff. But anyway, he started telling Trent about hypochlorous acid, and Trent was really intrigued by it. And Trent used to be an athlete. He was a wrestler at, a high school state wrestler, and then on to the collegiate level as well, as was his brother. They've both wrestled at a pretty high level, and they've suffered with all kinds of skin infections as a result of that. And so as soon as Trent heard about hypochlorous, he was very interested in how he can use that to help athletes. And so we started, studying up on that and figuring that out. And so that's how we entered the market. We entered in the sports space. And so we started out, in fact, I've got one of our original labels here, as a matter of fact. So
oh, wow.
Very original. Yes, which we've changed. It was Sports Armor. We've changed the name since then, just because of a question about the armor part. So now we're just Pure and Clean Sports, and it's used widely throughout. There's schools that use it. There's a lot of sporting entities that use it throughout, whether it be from children, littles, all the way up to our professional, athletes, such as Michael Chandler, who's a USC fighter. And then we've got multiple, NCAA national championships use it. USA Wrestling and Boxing use it. The Olympic training centers use it. When they went to Tokyo, it was, of course, right after the 2020 stuff, so in 2021, those games were in Tokyo and Beijing. They took 16 pallets of Pure and Clean with them to the games. Yeah. And then, of course, Paris, everything's leveled out a little bit. So they only took about 8 pallets, but they still took Pure and Clean with them. Yeah. And so, they've replaced all their disinfecting things at those venues with Pure and Clean, as well as their alcohol-based hand sanitizers. They've replaced Pure and Clean for those. And additionally, then we have the products like the one I just showed you, which is Skin Defense, that the athletes spray on themselves to help. We call it a shower in a bottle. So anyway, so that's that side of it. And so that's how we very, very first entered the market with Pure and Clean. Yeah. Soon after that, we moved into the medical space, and we now are in lots of, hospitals and clinics and things like that. We started out in that space working on wounds specifically, which it's interesting because there's 6.7 million people in the U.S. that have chronic wounds. I didn't even know that was a thing. They have wounds that won't heal. Yeah. I was so ignorant as to that. But there's a lot of people who have diabetic foot ulcers, venous stasis leg ulcers. There's some who have things called pyoderma gangrenosum, which is another, cause for wounds that won't heal. And we have now been seeing these wounds that don't heal for years and years and years heal. And we're even seeing it in hospice patients. So they don't have much going on there in their bodies to help with this. And we've seen wounds heal in those vulnerable patients as well. And then we're seeing chronic wounds heal in less than half the time.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. So let me back up a little bit to, as far as like the disinfectant kind of a standpoint, why is Pure and Clean hypochlorous acid different from like bleach or something along those lines? What makes it different?
Right. Bleach is also a reactive oxygen species, as is HOCl. it's been studied widely, and one of the studies that I like to quote is from Oregon State University. They found in their study that it's 100 times more effective than bleach as a disinfectant.
Wow.
And the other thing is that hypochlorous acid is a naturally occurring molecule in our bodies. So our white blood cells, the neutrophils specifically, produce HOCl in response to trauma and to fight infection. So our bodies love it. So when you're talking about the difference in pure and clean and bleach, this is completely non-toxic, non-cytotoxic, doesn't damage any of the cells of our bodies compared to this. In fact, speaking of damaging cells, we've gone to the most, vulnerable or delicate cells that you can find, and those are the osteoblast. And we've done studies on that. Because that has to do with orthopedic surgeries and things like that. And those surgeons want to know that what they're using isn't going to cause any problems with the cells that are working to heal those. And so we have done those studies, and we found, excellent results, and that, no, it doesn't cause any damage at all. So compare that to bleach. Another question is, so would you spray bleach in your eye? Absolutely not. Whereas with this, you can, it's safe to use around the eyes, nose, mouth. We've done studies, HOCl tests, where we test on the most sensitive eyes, which are New Zealand baby rabbits. I know that sounds horrible, but the good news is that the little rabbits, it caused absolutely no problem. One of the rabbits had an infection. It cleared that infection up. So it did no harm to those little guys. Good. But so it came out with zero irritancy, that of normal saline.
Wow.
So those are the type of results that we get. Same with the inhalation, did no damage at all.
Right.
Of course, the dermal testing, no problems. But anyway, so those are the kind of results that we get with Pure and Clean.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you're using the phrase antimicrobial. This is antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, all of it.
Yes.
So is this also, like, let's say if we're using this for skin wounds, for example, a lot of times in those cases, what's going on is that you've got like the bacteria in the skin, which is normal if it's outside the skin barrier. If it penetrates the skin barrier, now it's in the wrong place, and now it's an opportunistic infection. So it sounds like this must be addressing that. Is it therefore sterilizing all of the good flora topically? Like, let's say somebody's using it on the skin that has eczema or something. Is it going to wipe out the local skin flora that's good?
It does not. I looked at a study recently on that, and it showed that it really does not. So hypochlorous is just a really amazing substance in that it's really what God created in us to do these things. And therefore it's got this these unique properties about it that it's almost like it seems to know, what's good and what's not.
Bad. Yeah.
And yes. And so it's really incredible, the results that we've seen. The outcomes have been absolutely phenomenal. Right. And I would love to share some of those with you. And at some point, maybe I'll pull out one of our brochures to just show you one in particular a little further in.
Yeah. Well, why don't you do that now? This seems like a great moment for that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a hospital brochure that is very recent. But the one that I really want to focus on is this one, and I'll just put it up close. So
that's an amazing story.
Yeah. So this young man, he presented at his eye doctor. And he had been to the hospital the day before. He was involved in a serious car accident. I mean, not car accident, sorry, bicycle accident. And all that you saw on his face is road rash. And it was really horrible. And his eye, as if you could see it better, was also affected. And so that's why his mom took him to the eye doctor the next day. And the eye doctor checked it out, and the eye looked horrible, but he said, no, there's no permanent damage there. That's the good news. Tell me what you're doing for your wounds. And so she proceeded to say, bacitracin is what they gave us. We're doing everything they told us how to do, everything right. But she's like, he can't even eat or drink through a straw. Because it is so painful for him. And so he said, well, I'd really like you to try the Pure and Clean hydrogel. And so she bought a little bottle from him because he carries our products for the eyes. And they went into the parking lot and started using it right away. And she said within 12 hours, he was able to eat and drink normally. And I'm going to spray the hydrogel on just so you can see. It's a gel, but it doesn't run off. And that's why the wound doctors are absolutely loving it, because they can spray it on a vertical wound and it won't run off. But back to Carson's story. So what happened with him, the second picture that you saw at the hospital, they told him it would be 4 to 6 months for complete healing and that he would likely have permanent scarring. But that second picture that you see is of him at 10 days.
That's amazing.
So yes, 10 days later. Wow. And she said, if you were to see Carson today, you would never know that he had an injury on his face. So there's no scarring at all.
So they put the hydrogel in the eye, or was it the drops?
He used, I think he probably just sprayed the liquid spray.
Liquid spray. Okay.
So, yeah. Okay. So that's what he used for in the eye. Again, that is an off-label use, just so to be clear. Right. Our product is FDA cleared for external use. It's not for injection, but we have done, like I said, the HOCl testing, inhalation. We've done all the testing to ensure the safety of it. And of course, our efficacy speaks for itself. Yeah. But those are that's just one example of an acute wound that would have absolutely eventually healed, but we're healing acute ones in less than half the time.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And no synthetic chemicals, additives, or anything like that in the product, right?
Okay. None at all. And our product our FDA cleared products have a 24-month shelf life. One of the things that we can note about hypochlorous is that it is a very unstable substance. So man has been able to make it for over 175 years, but it wasn't stabilized. So they would have to remake it every 90 minutes. So it was only for 90 minutes at a time. So that was 175 years ago. They used it on the battlefield for the med tents and everything. They sterilized their equipment with it. They used it on the patients during surgeries, and then also on the wounds. Right. So it was widely used then, but like I said, they had to make it on site.
Sure.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
So because they couldn't seem to stabilize it at that time, then they developed antibiotics, harsh chemicals. And they're like, oh, we've got the answers for this. We can kill everything with these things. Hey, it's easy to kill stuff.
Right, sure.
But it's not easy to kill it safely.
Right.
So that's what's so phenomenal about hypochlorous, is that it kills better than bleach. Sure. The study that I quoted from Oregon State University it's 100 times more effective than bleach as a disinfectant. So it's huge, and in fact, it's funny, whenever I read that, I'm like, well, that's ridiculous. I mean, who's going to believe that? I couldn't have been just like 10 times or something.
Right.
So it just sounds more reasonable, but that's what they found. There was another study that found it was 80 times, and another one found that it was 200 times. So I stick with kind of the one in the middle.
The average, yeah.
And so it is highly effective, and yet our bodies love it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, okay, so you said that it's FDA approved just topically, but it sounds like you guys have used it. So you said inhalations with a nebulizer for people who have upper respiratory infection kind of a thing. Do they have to dilute it with water, or do you put it straight into the nebulizer?
Well, it depends. Our products are in varying concentrations. So we've got our EPA registered disinfectant all the way down to, we actually have one that's a higher concentration than that's used by like sports entities and stuff. And they dilute it and spray it because they use like a lot of it. Right. So that's the highest concentration, all the way down to the lowest concentration that we make is 100 parts per million, which is used, like I said, for the eye doctors are prescribing it for all different kinds of conjunctivitis, whether it be bacterial, viral, or fungal. They're prescribing it for corneal abrasions and all kinds of things like that.
Right.
Yeah. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
And if you wanted to do off-label for like eye drops or something, do you have to get a different bottle, or do you just spray it straight in? What do people do?
Well, that's the interesting part. The doctors were prescribing it off-label, and they would send their patient home. They purchased little bottles with a dropper in them, and they were sending it home with them. And so what we did to help them is we went ahead and produced it in a dropper bottle. And so the doctors prescribe it in that way. Now, like I said, I mean, you only get that type of application through an eye doctor. Sure. So because we don't market it to the general public in that way, because we're not allowed to.
Right.
The doctors can prescribe it all day long off label, but we have to stick to the on labeled indications.
And also more off label ideas here. So I talked to you off air a little while ago about the nasal spray option, and you said it can work for that, except the bottles, there's a challenge with the bottle. So what was that again?
That is that almost all of the nasal sprays have a metal coil in there, and the liquid passes through there.
Right.
The liquid is a reactive oxygen species, which if it comes in contact with a low grade metal, then it is corrosive. So over a period of time, as it passes through that and becomes corrosive, all of a sudden the person using it would experience not good feeling. I mean, it's very, very uncomfortable from what I've learned.
Yeah.
So that's not something that it can be used in that way. You could spray it like in one of our spray bottles, up in that area like that. Another way is with a neti pot.
I was just going to say that. Okay.
I highly recommend the neti pot.
Yeah.
That works phenomenally well. If you're really sick and you've got a lot of congestion, a lot of infection up in your sinuses, I would neti pot at least twice a day.
Yeah. And in that situation, I would imagine that you would dilute it simply because you'd run through the product very quickly if you're filling up a neti pot, right?
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And I would dilute with distilled water. Distilled water is dead water. It has no minerals or anything in it. Right. And with hypochlorous acid, it's going to react to whatever is in that particular tap water.
Yep.
So now, if you're using it right away, like, excuse me, if you're using it to clean with and you want to put it in a spray bottle or whatever, and you're going to go through it pretty quick and within, a week or so, you can use regular tap water for that because it's not going to be sitting on yourself for a period of time.
Right.
If it is going to be sitting on yourself, definitely use distilled water. And I prefer distilled water if I'm using it for something like that, just for my own, for personal use in that way.
Sure, yeah. And so also since, there's been a variety of ways to use this for people who have like recurrent cavities or dental infections or periodontitis or something like that, could it theoretically be used as a mouthwash? Has anybody done that?
Yes, they have done that. Okay. And there's quite a few people that do that I know of and that I'm aware of. How widespread it is, I don't know, but I mean, any of the dentists that are in the know and understand it well, I would think would prescribe it in that way.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. It works well for that.
Okay, very cool. And so while we're on the topic, as far as like, I know people are going to listen to this and wonder if they can swallow it. What's the answer for that?
Well, as far as testing goes, there's a term called LD50, which for, disinfectants and things like that, you have to answer as to how much of it would someone have to ingest before it would kill 50% of the people. Okay. So our LD50 is like 70 gallons. Okay. So it's like more than water.
Right. Sure.
So, and yes, so like there's EPA, regulations, there's FDA regulations. So for the EPA regulations, I can't tell you legally that our product is safe.
Yes, right.
But because pesticide, it's under the umbrella of a pesticide, and in their, book and in their guidelines, there is no room for a safe, any wording like that. So we can't tell you that it's safe. However, if a child got in and swallowed and drank our product, full strength, the disinfectant,
yeah,
you might call poison control a little freaked out, and they'd say, what's the age and weight of the child? And tell me again what the substance is. And then they would get back on the phone and they'd say, have them drink a glass of water.
Yeah. Okay.
So
right.
It's not going to kill them. It's not even going to cause them. It may cause them to be sick.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually did that because I had a stomach bug, and I was like, my gosh, go out to the car. I told my husband, go to the car and get that disinfectant. Yeah. I tried to drink it full strength, and that was like a really bad idea. It didn't stay down.
Okay.
So, it's likely not going to stay down. It's going to say, hey, what in the world did you just put in here? So, anyway, so my body, of course, I was already sick.
You were already sick, sure.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that's just my own personal story. But
got it. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. For sure. So, is this something that can be overused? Like how with antibiotics, if they're overused, then things will evolve resistance to it. Is that going to happen with this?
So
No.
far, and based on the fact that God gave us this substance in the way that it is,
Right.
we have never witnessed any resistance to it. We have not noticed, I mean, there's not ever been a bacteria known to us that has developed any resistance. Viruses, no. Fungus, I mean, biofilm and things like that. I mean, it's been very, very effective, and we have not seen any signs that anything's become resistant at all to it. So,
Got it. Okay. Very cool. So you mentioned that it comes in a wound cleanser, then there's the hydrogel, there's the first aid solution. When would you use which? I gathered that if you'd want it to not run off, you'd use the gel. Is that right?
correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So, especially for our more really difficult to heal wounds, or
Right.
any wounds for that matter, the hydrogel. So Pure and Clean Hypochlorous is a reactive oxygen species. So it reacts very quickly and then it's done. So it doesn't hang around. There's not residual killing and stuff going on like you might find with some other things that would also kill your cells.
Yeah.
It doesn't do that. So it kills really well and then it's gone. But with the hydrogel, because it's that form, it's more viscous and it stays in suspension longer. So it will continue oxygenating a wound for up to 72 hours.
Yeah.
So what oxygen does, our bodies, our cells love oxygen. They
Right.
love an oxygen-rich environment. So that's why we're seeing these wounds that have never healed heal.
Right.
And it's just phenomenal to watch this take place.
Yeah.
And so, excuse me. So basically, the hydrogel is something that you would use for wounds.
Right.
I mean, for sunburns, I love just the spray itself. I have my own little Pure and Clean story from years ago when I first started with Pure and Clean. I got quite a sunburn on my legs. The top part was in the shade. My cousin and I were talking, at our lake house. So we weren't paying attention. And when I got inside, I noticed I had a really pretty bad sunburn. Wasn't blistered or anything, but it was really red.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to try the Pure and Clean. They say it works for sunburns. And so I sprayed only one of my legs. And the next day when I got up, I went in and showed her and we laughed so hard because the difference was shocking.
Dramatic. Wow.
It was. So that was my own Pure and Clean story. And I mean, I believe in Pure and Clean. I completely believe in Pure and Clean. And yet often, so many times, we are still wowed by the results. Just like the young man with that on his face, 10 days later, we are wowed by that.
Yeah.
So
So,
pretty cool.
And along those lines, so can you show us maybe one other story that was from the brochure? Yeah.
Yeah. This one was a Mayo Clinic doctor. Actually, I have a newer version of this that I like a little better. So this was a Mayo Clinic doctor, and this man was a 78-year-old male, and that's the man's shoulder.
Wow.
So to give you the backstory, it was a huge wound on his shoulder. It was literally like this long, and it was deep all the way to the bone. He had a recurring cancer there, sarcoma, and they had to cut it completely out. So it was a huge gaping wound, a surgical wound. But they also did radiation on him. So in one of the pictures that I'm going to show you a little closer, you can see the radiation burns around there as well. I mean, it's a very sad wound. It's really horrible. Yeah. But he presented at this, at the Mayo Clinic wound clinic. And this doctor, Dr. Johnson, it was Pseudomonas is what it was, which is a nasty, stinky green bacteria. So that wound had dehisced with that Pseudomonas. And so he cleaned it out completely with Pure and Clean. And then he sent the patient home, and his wife used the hydrogel 5 to 7 times a day. She would pull the dressing back and she would spray it on there. It's so easy to use. It is just, it's amazing. Yeah. And this doctor, they're practicing antibiotic stewardship. And so he chose not to give this man any oral antibiotics and no topical antibiotics. He used Pure and Clean hydrogel. That is it.
Yeah.
So she sprayed that on there that many times every day. And this is the result. So you can see, this is the first one. This is when he left. And then he came back, and you can see how much pinker the skin is around here.
And that's 7 days.
7 days later. It is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then this is the final healing at 3 months. Yeah. So, and this doctor, it's funny because he had previously, his whole career, he'd been a plastic surgeon. So he didn't want it to look like that when he finished. He wanted to do a pectoral flap and cover that up and make it nice and smooth and all. And so the man had a pacemaker. And so he asked the cardiologist, can you guys move that to the other side so I can like make this look nice? No, we're not touching it with that on his back,
Sure.
So he would move it. So the best that they could do is feel like that, but it's still phenomenal. It's a great result. It's a healed wound and in a short period of time.
Yeah, that's really incredible. So what have I not asked you that you want to make sure you leave with our audience?
Can you use it on animals? A lot of people ask us that question, and the answer to that is absolutely. All mammals produce HOCl, and all mammals are completely immune to it. So people have said, they have eye matter problems with dogs, or their ears are messed up. They have hot spots. They have, rashes. They have had to have like a surgery or whatever, the wounds. So like I said, all these things heal in less than half the time. So it's phenomenal. So that's one of the things.
Yeah.
And let's see, what else have we not touched on? Well, I guess just the vision. I mean, if you are having like dry eye, we've had a recent study, a dry eye study with this, and the results are really excellent. They're really, really excellent. And so that white paper is going to be published with that study results and everything on there in a few publications coming up. But any eye doctors who would be curious about this, I definitely have them look into it because we've got lots of great results. Blepharitis, that's on label. So anything styes, anything with the lid and lash lines. Also, the optometrists are also recommending it for daily hygiene. And so there's a lot of their patients, contact lens patients or dry eye patients, and especially also patients that have the lash extensions. All three of those populations and children have a higher risk of infections.
Sure.
So they're prescribing it. They say, hey, the dentists say, brush your teeth every morning and every night. So they're telling their patients, so they want to practice habit stacking. So they've already got the habit of brushing their teeth. And so they tell the patient, put this right next to your toothbrush. Every time you brush your teeth, use Pure and Clean. And so they're decreasing their incidence of infections because of that. So
terrific. Very cool. So where can people go to learn more about Pure and Clean and to pick some up?
Yes. So we market a lot to doctors, hospitals, and that kind of thing. So that's really where we are. But the general public can find us at, just spell it out, pureandclean.us. So it's not .com, it's .us. So pureandclean.us. That's our website. And they can find us there. And for you guys, I'm giving you also a discount code. So any of your viewers can receive 10% off by using your 3 letters for your name, CNH 10. So if they'll use that CNH at 10 at checkout, then they'll get 10% discount.
Perfect. And so that's CNH as in Christian Natural Health. And I'm going to put all that in the show notes so people can go pick that up. And thank you so much. This is really exciting. I didn't realize that something like this existed, but I'm thrilled to know it.
Yes, yes. Well, and I do want to mention just one other thing briefly, and that is there are other HOCLs out there. We're not the only HOCl on the market, but what I will tell you is all HOCl is not created equally.
Okay.
If it were easy, then they would have taken care of it 175 years ago. But they gave up on it for a long period of time. It's only been in about the last 20 years that there's been any stabilization at all. And we have perfected our methods. We've got some patented filtration systems, and then we've got our trade secrets. And we are the longest shelf life on the market as far as open bottle. So that's another thing that they need to know is that, so we've got a 24-month shelf life from the date of manufacture. There's a date on the bottom of the bottle. And then once that's, it's not affected by opening the bottle.
Mm-hmm.
So once they open the bottle, whatever the shelf life is on the bottom of the bottle, they still have that much time left. Whereas many other HOCLs, they open the bottle and they've got 30 days to use it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then they need to throw it away.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they need to be aware of and familiar. They may have a 24-month shelf life on there, but once the bottle is opened, then it needs to be used in 30 days.
Got it.
So there's multiple brands out there that's the case with. And so that's one of the things that I would want your viewers to know, that ours is not affected by opening the bottle. It is a 24-month shelf life from the date of manufacture. And I want to make that clear because some people have said after opening the bottle. I'm like, no, it's still from the date of manufacture. So if let's say it's been on the shelf at your doctor's office for 12 months, then you open the bottle and you've got 12 months left.
Right. Yeah.
So that kind of thing.
Perfect. Well, great to know. So one more time. So it is pureandclean.us and CNH10 to purchase. And thank you so much, Roma. This has been fantastic.
You are welcome. Thank you, Lauren.
Are you looking for a holistically minded healthcare practitioner who truly treats root cause rather than symptom suppression? Unfortunately, even in the alternative healing professions, this isn't a given. That's why I've created wholehealthdoctor.com, a resource to help connect patients to healthcare practitioners in their area who share a root cause philosophy. Alternatively, most of the practitioners listed also practice telehealth. So if there isn't anyone local to you, you can still find a great practitioner to help you regain optimal health. Go to wholehealthdoctor.com. That's wholehealthdr.com. Type in your location or just the specialty that you're looking for and find the practitioner who's right for you.
Thanks for listening to Christian Natural Health. This show is run by you, so please write in with topic and guest suggestions for future shows. For more great content, subscribe to Dr. Lauren's blog at www.drlaurendeville.com or follow her on Facebook or Twitter at Dr. Lauren DeVille. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to share it with your friends and give us a 5-star rating in iTunes. It really helps us to stand out so other people can discover great content as well. Have a great week and God bless you.